Your electric bill and your banking habits would seem to be private, right? Wrong. Creditors are now peering into your financial records to see if you're worthy of a loan. Are they just being creepy or just cautious? I turn to my freedom fighters. Fox Business Network's stocks editor Elizabeth McDonald, also known as EMAC, Mises Institute founder and chair Lew Rockwell, and Occidental College political science professor Carolyn Heldman. I have a feeling, my friends, the four of us may agree on this one, but EMAC, to you first. Do the banks have the right to know every time I go to the grocery store and when I go what I bought and when I buy it what I paid for it?
Personally, it feels like they should not have that right, because here's what happens. When they find out every personal financial detail about your life, what often happens is they share that with other financial concerns, and including insurance companies who could jack up your rates without even telling you why, even though nothing in your life has changed. They also reportedly have been visiting social media sites to get more information about you so they could do more marketing to you, because remember, this is a sector that was in almost on fiscal collapse, and that's why they're doing it.
Lew, what's the real danger with this kind of information in the hands of even a benign bank? Where might it end up?
Judge, no such thing as a benign bank.
All right.
I mean, these things are based with fractional reserves. They have pipelines to the Fed. If they make losses, they're prevented from going under. They're entirely connected to the government. They are, in effect, connected to the Department of Homeland Security. So, yes, it's something to worry about, even though I think credit bureaus are a great market institution and, are being, of course, misused in this case by the banks, which are a tremendous danger. We live in really a bankocracy. Yeah. The banks are the most important institutions in society. That is wrong.
Carolyn Heldman, Professor Heldman, you're here to defend big government. Surely even you worry about this information getting in the hands of the wrong people, don't you?
Well, yes, I am very concerned about this, and especially concerned that the Wall Street Journal's analysis showed that employers might deny you jobs based upon your bank activity or your social networking activities. My big concern, though, is that there is no other institution aside from the government that can really do something about this, because this is a problem with technology, and unless we have laws against the sharing of information that would be passed through the government, then we can't prevent it.
Well, we should have laws that respect privacy. I mean, Bob Barr was just here a few minutes ago reminding us what Ayn Rand said. When you take away somebody's privacy, you can control the person, whether the government takes that privacy away or whether these monster banks take the privacy away.
Well, you can certainly try to control their financial life, and this has been an issue since the technology revolution was upon us decades ago. And, you know, this information sharing between banks has grown, actually, over the years. So what can you do about it? Can you block them from getting access to certain information about you via your credit score? And what's reported in your credit score report, that's an issue that's been out there for some time.
Lew, should credit bureaus have the right to ask my landlord whether or not I pay my rent on time? And should they have the ability to share that with federal marshals or federal agents when they come calling with a self-written search warrant?
Well, Judge, if you're applying for credit and you give them the permission to know about you, then yes, I would say they have the right to know about you. The problem comes with the government. Of course, the government, and we can't expect government laws to protect us. The government's the greatest violator of our privacy in the history of the world. I mean, this is the institution that wants to read our emails, listen to our phone calls. They'd like to have a camera in your living room if they could. So you can't trust the government. The idea that those creeps in Washington can be trusted with our privacy is just seems to me nuts.
So what do we do, Carolyn? We can't trust the government. The government's the biggest violator here. Who will protect us from everybody that's snooping and sharing private information about us?
Well, I would simply disagree that there's no other option, right? So where will it ultimately lie? In citizens holding the government accountable. And I would agree that the government engages in many of these actions as well. It's our job to hold them accountable. But there is no other institution where we can seek redress against powerful banks and credit companies.
All right. In my opinion, private entities, of course, have the right to collect information and share information and make judgments based on that information. But there's also a legal principle of the reasonable expectation of privacy. You don't reasonably expect you're going to be videotaped when you're taking a shower in the gym. There is some limitation to where these people can go. As technology and expertise makes sorting and mining your personal data ever more sophisticated, we have to be on guard against these abuses, especially considering how deeply enmeshed institutions such as the banking system already are with the government. Look, we can tell the banks that spy on us to take a hike. We can stop doing business with them and they'll leave. I wish we could do the same with the government. Speaking of creepy institutions, a growing number of folks are choosing to be groped rather than x-rayed at the airport. But should they have to endure either treatment just to get on the plane? The Freedom Fighter panel takes flight on that one after this. Opting out of body scanners at airports now means opting in for a pat-down. This week, even a flight attendant union said enough is enough, and pilots have protested as well. In fact, we had one on this program a short time ago. Our Freedom Fighters panel is groping for answers, okay, on how to address security versus privacy. EMAC, Rockwell, Heldman. Carolyn, this is disgusting, I think, that the government makes us choose between letting it take a pornographic picture of us and letting its agents touch our private parts in order to get on an airplane. What do we do about this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a clear violation, right, of Fourth Amendment, our protection against unreasonable searches.
Wait, am I hearing myself right? Carolyn Heldman is defending the Fourth Amendment?
Well, of course. I love the Constitution as much as you do, Judge. And this is just such a clear example where we have pornographic pictures being taken of children, and we haven't had a public dialogue about that. And then there's the amount of radiation that frequent flyers would be exposed to. So the fact that TSA was able to pass this regulation and we simply accept it is unacceptable.
How did we get into this situation where bureaucrats in the government have given us this Hobson's choice between standing still and letting them look at every nook and cranny in our bodies, or letting them literally with their gloved hands touch our private parts in ways that could arguably be an assault?
It unfolded because of the aftermath of 9/11. I agree with Carolyn. By the way, this TSA scanning device was not put up for public comment or public rulemaking. And the issue is this, is that, you know, often we talk about whether or not profiling is the way to go. Can you do profiling in a rational way that is not racially discriminating? And I would say you can do that. I mean, but there are people out there who say, wait a second, that this is a violation of civil liberties. And I would say to that, there is no greater violation of civil liberties than attacking and murdering innocent people at work or on an airplane.
That the government can keep us safe. Lou, the government can't deliver the mail, can't balance its books, can't even collect taxes from people that owe them. How's it going to keep us safe at the airports?
It couldn't even keep its own military headquarters safe. No, the government can't do it, of course. But this has nothing to do with safety. These machines were already in the works before 9/11. They just 9/11 gave them the chance to impose them. By the way, Michael Chertoff, the former DHS secretary, sells these machines to the government at great profit. So, but again, it shows us what the government likes. They like to intimidate, they like to control, they like to humiliate, they like to take their thumb and push you down and crush you. That's the purpose of these machines, to teach us to obey, to make us good little citizens, so we'll give over our money, our children to their armies and their wars, and all the rest of the police state apparatus they want to function to crush us.
Carolyn?
This has nothing to do with safety or protecting us.
I am 100% with Lou. I don't think the government keeps us safe. I think flying is safer because pilots have guns. Did you know that pilots had guns in the 80s and 90s, but they only had guns when they were flying cargo? The guns were to protect cargo, not people. Today, all pilots have guns. The cockpit doors are like vaults. The people are courageous. The passengers stop the bad guys. Ask the underwear bombers. So what keeps us safer? Courage and private enterprise, or a bumbling government that wants to see what I look like without my underwear on?
Well, Judge, you just described a number of measures that the government put into place after 9/11 in order to protect us, and there have been 0 deaths in the sky as a result. My question is, why do we need these additional measures? It sounds to me like it's being driven by money and not by safety.
Look, the government can protect you, Judge. I mean, I'm not for having a pilot having a gun in a cockpit. That person could be drunk, an alcoholic, or deranged. But there is a line that we can. I do believe that the government can protect us.
Got it. EMAC, Rockwell, Heldman, thanks very much for joining us today. Back with the plain truth, which is that the revolution may already have been betrayed. after this. So the election is nearly 2 weeks into history, and Republicans are betraying the folks who sent them to Washington already. In the House of Representatives, which the Republicans will soon run to their liking, the so-called small government advocates won't permit the Tea Party folks to join the ranks of their leadership. What are they afraid of? I know what they're afraid of, that someone like Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann will ask them, just as she did Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner about TARP and stimulus, where Congress gets its authority from. Remember this?
What provision in the Constitution could you point to give authority for the actions that have been taken by the Treasury since March of '08?
Oh, well, the Congress legislated in the Emergency Economic Stabilization Act a range of very important new authorities.
Sir, in the Constitution, what in the Constitution could you point to give authority to the Treasury for the extraordinary actions that have been taken?
Every action that the Treasury and the Fed and the FDIC is been using authority granted by this body, the Congress.
And in the Constitution, what could you point to?
Under the laws of the land, of course.
That was the most effective cross-examination of the Obama administration and Congress in 2 years. Congresswoman Bachmann is right. It doesn't matter if Congress writes a law in which it authorizes itself to spend billions. If the Constitution doesn't delegate that power to Congress in the first place, the law is unconstitutional. Now the good old boys club, the ones Sarah Palin outed in Alaska, will not let Michelle Bachmann in the door, because when there, she asks them where in the Constitution they will get their authority for spying and spending. They will not be able to reply. So instead of the legal scholar and fearless Michelle Bachmann, the good old boys, the Republican leadership in the House, opened up their leadership doors to a newly elected Tea Party congresswoman from South Dakota who probably couldn't find the elevator in the Capitol building. What a joke. And over in the Senate, the Republicans are fighting over earmarks. You remember them. They are the billions of dollars in pet projects. Remember the bridge to nowhere that members of Congress get to direct to their districts. Senator Jim DeMint wants to end this practice of bringing home the bacon. Senator Jim Inhofe, as you just heard, wants members of Congress to be able to spread around your tax dollars, lest bureaucrats do it instead. These two Republicans both miss the point. The point is that the Congress should not be spending your tax dollars on gifts to constituents, no matter who decides where the gifts go. That's because whatever money Congress spends must be done pursuant to a power granted to Congress in the Constitution, and it must benefit everyone in the country, not just the recipient of the gifts. So this fight over earmarks is not over whether your tax dollars will be spent, but rather over who will decide where the money goes. Wait a minute. I thought we had a revolution 2 weeks ago. I thought the Tea Party folks won. I thought the voters ended the Pelosi-like nonsense. I told you so. We don't have two parties in this country, just one. We'll see you Monday night, right here at 8 o'clock Eastern, when your night watchman goes daily. From New York, defending freedom. So long, America.